Welcome to the Company of Dads podcast, where we explore the sweet, silly, strange, and sublime aspects of being a lead dad in a world where men, who are the go-to parent, aren't always accepted at work, among their friends, or in the community for what they're doing. I'm your host, Paul Sullivan. Our podcast is just one of the many things we produce each week at the Company of Dads. We have various features, including the Lead Dad of the Week. We have our community, both online and some in-person events as well. We have a new resource library for all fathers. The one-stop shop to know about all of this is our newsletter, The Dad. So sign up at thecompanyofdads.com/thedad. Today, my guest is Michael Perry, founder of Maple, an app that helps families get on the same page and organize their lives. He's a successful technology entrepreneur who sold a startup called Kit, a virtual marketing assistant, to Shopify, where he then worked for many years. It was during this time, though, that he and his wife began having children. And as the juggle started, he struggled, like many fathers and husbands, to keep it all straight. Enter Maple, which is trying to use technology to at least keep the logistics of life straight and orderly. Their children are now 2 and 4, and they are fully in the mix of parenting life. Michael, welcome to the Company of Dads podcast.
Paul, thank you so much for having me. Super excited to be here today.
You know, what was a moment when you thought, this is hectic? There has to be a better way to keep everything straight. And I think I might have an idea as to how to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I very vividly remember coming home from work. My son was probably 4 or 5 months old. And it was the first, my wife and I, prior to having children, had been together for 13 years. Longer, actually. No, 13 years. And it was the first time in a relationship where I felt like we were living completely two separate lives. I had no idea what was going on. She was giving me updates when I come home for work about doctor's appointments, visits, various things that was going on. And I was struggling deeply to manage a 200 plus person team at a company that had offices between the US and Canada, as well as just keeping my marriage intact and understanding what was going on with my young son's day-to-day life and how I could be supportive and being an active participant in raising him. And so I actually started the journey of trying to find a solution that I thought could kind of fill that void, kind of, bridge that gap, so to speak, between my wife and I, and just having a shared system in place, and really didn't find anything. And it then dawned on me, it was in that moment, after doing the research, that there was not really any great enterprise level tooling that allowed for parents to asynchronously work better together to take care of their kids. And it was at that moment I decided to kind of leave Shopify and the work that we had been doing to try to simplify entrepreneurship, to kind of build Maple and simplify the day in and day out job of being a parent.
Yeah, unpack some of that for those of us who have trouble operating our iPhones. When you say enterprise level solution, I know what that means from us talking before,
Sure.
But explain to the listener what it means and why it's important for what you're trying to achieve with Maple.
Yeah. So I think we all are living through what will be seen as the great technology revolution. And during this time over the last 50 years, I think there's been 2 really large investments. One is consumer technology, that is from how we buy things on Amazon to how we use Instagram and keep in touch with our friends and family, and anything that is consumer centric. And then there's this other big bucket of work that's been heavily invested in the last 50 years, and really in the last 25 years, and that's software as a service. And software as a service, companies build tooling that make our 9-to-5 jobs easier and more efficient. So whether that's building CRM-like services, database warehousing, anything that can touch our 9-to-5 industrial jobs, that has really streamlined and made any sort of 9-to-5 job more efficient. Those investments haven't taken place in our home. We have yet to find a company, my belief is Maple being the first, that has really focused on building grade A level technology, not in a consumer centric way, but in an enterprise software as a service way that brings applications to our home to bring more efficiency and streamline to the 9 to 5 or 24/7 job it is that is being a parent.
And, unpack. Maple's a great name. I want to know what it stands for. I know it's an acronym. I want to know what it stands for. And then I want to know, how does it work? How does it actually connect people? How does it actually make what is difficult, parenting? None of us know it's going to be difficult until we get into it, even though our friends tell us that it's going to be difficult. We don't believe it.
That's right.
How does it make it less difficult, or at least, more efficient?
Well, the name Maple is an acronym for Make All Parents' Lives Easier. It was originally founded in the deep purpose that trees play a critical role in giving us life and serve a very meaningful purpose in terms of shelter and producing fruits and various things for us to thrive as a society. And so I really wanted to build a company grounded in that same purpose of function that provides us the unique ability to care. I think for parents, I've been on this long journey now, speaking to thousands of parents of why it's not easy. What could make parents' lives easier? Why is it so incredibly hard? There's different phases of raising a child, but the commonality is similar to entrepreneurship. Each phase of caregiving brings a whole new set of problems that you've never had before. And typically underneath each of those phases is a tremendous amount of disorganization. In today's world, parents are actively, in most cases, trying to care for their children. Some of them are caring for their parents. Some of them are trying to maintain a marriage. Some of them are trying to maintain a job. Some of them are trying to maintain personal, physical and mental health. And so you're doing more than you've ever done before without the support of technology, where every other job has allowed us to take on more work without it completely going off the rails. And so for Maple, when you look at, working parents or people who are successfully or unsuccessfully co-parenting, so much about where technology has shifted in the workplace is around cloud collaboration. And so Maple has built a platform that there's a lot of little apps that live on that platform. So if you're trying to organize the home, we built an app that allows you to put everything into folders, whether that's your kid's school schedule, planning a ski trip or a summer camp. The top 5 things people actually plan for in Maple are chores and household maintenance, their finances, meal prep and grocery shopping, and then their kids and themselves. Actually, personalize a folder is a very popular thing on Maple. And inside each of those folders, you can invite somebody to collaborate with. So if you have a kids folder, you can invite your spouse or your ex or someone you're co-parenting with, or a nanny, or anyone in that orbit that you are working with to care for those children. And inside of that folder, you can collaborate with that person on a to-do list, a shopping list, calendar events. You can chat directly inside of it. We just launched a new expense sheet tracker so you can manage finances together directly inside of it. And we've also launched a weather tracker so that you can place wherever you're going or wherever you live as a weather tile directly inside of your Maple folder. So if you're planning or packing or dressing your kids in the morning, you have a good pulse of what's going on. And these simple things that haven't been designed for parents, but have been designed for the workplace, make a huge difference on people's ability to work better together and to really reduce the stress and overhead of trying to remember everything that's going on. Maple plays a leading role in satisfying that desire that parents have to be organized at home.
I'm still fixated on the grocery list part. So can you guarantee that if we use Maple, I won't have 3 bags of shredded cheese all the same and no milk? Is that something
it's one of our most popular features. Last time I checked, something like 50,000
more sour cream. We only have tacos once a week. I don't need this much sour cream.
Are you a Taco Tuesday family? Just generally out of
Taco
curiosity.
Taco Thursday.
Okay, you're mixing it up. Grocery listing is one of our most popular features, and obviously I know you're connected to Eve. She has that incredible story about her husband being upset about forgetting the blueberries.
Yeah.
But actually, it was a conversation with Eve that I had a long time ago. And similar to the material she puts out, this is actually, I think, even before I read Fair Play. She said, how did the mustard get in your refrigerator? That was just like a simple thing that dawned on me that, yeah, my mustard is in the refrigerator, likely because my wife realized we were out of mustard and, she ordered the mustard. And so a shared grocery list in a very weird way brings a tremendous amount of harmony to people who otherwise feel frustrated that they're the one carrying the load just for simply buying the shredded lettuce and, sour cream, so to speak. So it's an incredibly popular feature, and we built it again in an enterprise best-in-class way where we do things to autofill, so it's easier to type. We do remembering. We do all kinds of features that you would expect in some sort of 9-to-5 job for technology to make your life easier. We applied that directly to parenting.
The Eve that you just mentioned is Eve Rodsky. She's the author of Fair Play. She's a remarkable woman. She's an advisory board member of the company Dads. She's fantastic. But one of the things she talks about is the mental load of parenting. The mental load, it's such a great phrase. And she talks about, there's so much emphasis on moms and what moms are going to do, this sort of silent labor. And it's a burden to some. This is obviously something that the company of Dads is working to unpack, to work against, to show that men can take on that mental load as well. But in the case of Maple, how does Maple, strive to bring fathers in more? And given that this is enterprise level software, do you have any data on how, couples are using Maple?
We do. There's a lot of different things there that I'd like to touch on, if that's okay. And I'll try my best not to take up the entire airspace answering it.
I'll just interrupt you with more, comments about sour cream and
okay, that works.
Because I'm totally obsessed about that. So.
That totally works. What's interesting is we're on our second version of Maple, and the first version of Maple was a lot of prototyping, a lot of feedback. One of the largest things that people have struggled with is like, how do I get my husband to use this product? There's a couple of things that we did that I think make a huge difference. And is really kind of a separating piece between us and maybe any other product that's out there. One is, we have done a lot of messaging and communication and branding around the fact that some people have fallen into, I think, a very traditional mindset about what it looks like to be a man at home. And I think that world, obviously, we continue to brand and market around the reality that what it takes to be a caregiver as a man has changed many, many times, from being hunters and gatherers and having to chase down antelope to going to work in a factory to bring home the bacon. All of those things have kind of shifted. And I think that the number one thing that we as providers and caregivers to both our spouses and partners, where we are marching into an era where emotional care and support and involvement is the best form of fatherhood, right? I have not one time in my 37 years of existence had to run down the street with a bow and arrow and shoot an antelope to bring home to feed my family, right? So like that definition of masculinity is out.
If you lived in suburban Connecticut like I do, there are deer everywhere, and there are moments where I wish I had a bow and arrow, but I haven't shot it either.
And by the way, I am not discounting. My wife is from Maine. There's a lot of her friends who hunt for survival. I'm not saying that doesn't exist in today's world, but for the most part, most of us, at least in first world countries, we are having the benefit of going to supermarkets and taking that even a step further. There's a lot of people who are just ordering their shit on Instacart and not even going to the grocery store. And so I think what we've done is we've made it really, really cool in some weird way. And I think a lot of it is the fact that we have brought working level software into the home, that there's a familiarity almost like Slack. They're just opening up the app, having everything color coordinated in a calendar, being able to connect your work calendar, being able to be the digital central hub of your house has actually been a very strong step forward in terms of that invite rate and that acceptance rate into households, which we're now seeing north of 20% on a weekly basis to get their partner to collaborate with them. So like we have just level set this thing of like, let's try to remove the anger and the negative stigmatization around, you're not doing this and I'm not doing that, and, pitting people against each other and really making it about like, hey, this is our life's work. Raising children is our life's work. Raising children is our purpose. Caring for our kids is our purpose. And for a very long time, that purpose looked like hunting and gathering. That purpose looked like working 80 hours a week in a mill to make $2 a day. That purpose looked very different than it does in 2023. And I think that there's been a huge generational shift of people who are willing and want to be more active in the home, which has also been a huge blessing for us. From a data perspective, yeah, I mean, I think that there's two things we think about. Obviously, Eve being a pioneer, thinking about the mental load, which is like, again, the mustard in the refrigerator, the kids needing a dentist appointment, all of those things that we have definitely seen a significant uptick in participation. And the way that we measure that at Maple, obviously, is by who's inputting what versus who's taking action on what. So I think that there's the actual mental load of things, and then there's the actual physical work at home that is like who's doing what, and Maple playing a key role by our to-do list and seeing work naturally be divvied up, that we continue to monitor. And our hope is by the end of this year, actually publishing one of our first reports on household equality, on staying organized and collaborative.
Yeah, and so I want to unpack that. So the data at Maple, you can see if you have, I don't know, 3 people on a folder or something like that.
Yep.
You can see who is actually inputting it, how
inputting. Yep.
And then can you also see, is there a way to sort of check off the list after it's done?
Yep.
And so then you can see who is checking off the list.
Yep.
What's the, I don't want to give away the punchline here, but what are some rough estimates as not just what the split is now, but are you seeing any movement toward, when you launched as a
we are seeing significant movement. Like I said, when we first started, we saw an invite rate, let's say a participation rate more so of like 3 to 5%. Very, very, very low. Now, like I said, in a short period of time, less than a year, we're seeing that north of 20%. So by no means is it 50-50. We launched Maple with a campaign. It's not 1950, it's 50-50. We are very much about building equity in the household and creating equal partnership. We try our best. And I think that this has been a very interesting mental model. We try our best to even remind people that you wouldn't be in a workforce environment. You wouldn't have a healthy workforce working environment if you treated your colleagues the way that you treated your life partner. If you expected your colleagues to do everything, and you didn't show up in those relationships, that would create strife at work. And just reminding people that we have to treat our life partners as life partners, as co-founders to what you are building at home, and not just some subordinate spouse that you married and expect to do your laundry for you. And so, our goal is to get that number to 50%. That is our company mission. That is our company goal, to see better participation and equality in our app, and we're on our way.
I live in a part of the country outside of New York City where so many people I know have either MBAs from business school degrees, where part of it is you have to collaborate, or they have law degrees where you go in there and the Socratic method is all about discussing things. And, sort of coming off of what you just said, there's certain ways that people act in the workplace, virtual or in person, that doesn't always carry over at home. We say at the company of dads that resentment, doesn't just bloom fully formed 10 years into a relationship. It builds up. It's an accretion of little things that get to you. In the workplace, that wouldn't happen because you'd have these discussions, you'd have these 360 reviews. Maple, I don't want to put too much pressure on you. It is a tool. It's an organizing tool. It's helped, to make life more efficient. But, what do you think, a tool like Maple or just, freely associated here, what do you think can be done to bring some of the positive parts of the workplace traits, collaboration, discussion, rigorous debate, to bring them into the home so that you're talking about things in the way that you would in your 9-to-5 job and not just assuming that somebody else is going to do something for you?
Yeah, so this is a problem that we are right now that we feel like we've built a platform and we've built the right level of technology and application to that platform. How do we build efficiencies to bridge that gap in terms of the working relationship, right? Because you can give people all the tooling in the world, or the good saying is you can bring a horse to water, but you can't force it to drink. What can we do to actually increase productivity at home, and relationship building at home, and communication at home, and the working pieces of a household that are required to be successful in the workplace? So there's a couple of different things, Paul, that I can definitely share, and some that you and your audience are going to have to hold off to until 2024. I have a deep belief that may be really unpopular, and that is, I think most men, not all men, I'm speaking specifically to heterosexual couples right now. I'm sure that things are very different in the LGBTQI homes. But in most heterosexual couples, most men believe that they're a better version than their father, right? And that they are, they saw what their father did and they're now trying to do a better version of that. In most cases, that simply is not enough with the times. And so I think oftentimes with the data that we have inside of Maple, the calendars that we have inside of Maple, the insights of what people are planning for inside of Maple, there is going to be an investment that we're making right now provides, I don't want to say coaching, because that's not the right way that we're looking at it, guidance and suggestions on ways that people can work better together, or how households can create more equality at home. That is what we're working on right now. We can see based on behaviors, based on machine learning, based on time and day usage of the app, based on a lot of different factors, how we can make suggestions on things that an individual might want to consider doing. I think that where a lot of shortcomings are taking place inside of the home is that the bar has been set so phenomenally low. I am someone who does not think that most husbands are malicious. I think that the bar has been set so low that they believe what they are doing, their wives should be thankful for, because their wives have it easier than their mothers had it. And that's just not the right way to approach the problem. And that's not going to be the right solution for the future. And so we are addressing this very heads on, and we are super excited about some of the things that we're working on right now, to be able to provide the 360 feedbacks and the things that you talk about that oftentimes someone else is able to give guidance on.
Yeah, that's great. The debate is raging over, people are going to return to the office, they're going to work remotely. What's going to happen? We're not going to settle it on this podcast, but not all fathers can be there all the time, even when they want to be. And I know you have to travel to fundraise and to create interest in Maple. Last time we talked, you were traveling.
Yeah.
That takes we talk about the mental load, but that's an emotional tax on fathers. But
yes,
having talked to other people at Maple, I know that there are certain features, that some more long-term planning that allow all parents to sort of buy in. We can be in our hotel room where we are, and we can load it up with all those great nuts at Trader Joe's that we want, but that's not really as helpful as taking on some of the longer tasks. So talk to us about not the sort of more immediate, like scheduling and grocery store run type features, which are very important, obviously, but some of the longer term planning that perhaps the parent, and it could be the mom, could be the dad, who's traveling, who's not always in the house, can take on and share some of that mental load to sort of counteract for the emotional tax that being away incurs.
Yeah, I think first, you touched on something that's really, really, really important. And I think about this a tremendous amount. I think parenting actually, in today's world, is very much kind of like the remote workforce. I have a team of people that I work with to build a company, and we're not physically sitting in the same spot. Once in a while, we're in the same physical spot. We come together for offsites, and next week we're having a physical get together with a couple teammates who work in a particular department. But for the most part, day in and day out, we're trying to make it happen from different locations. You and your life partner right now are trying to make it happen from different locations. Me and my life partner are trying to make it happen from different locations. And I think historically speaking, so much again about how parenting has worked before was that parenting was very much tied to a physical location. Caregiving was very much tied to a physical location. Are you inside of your house? Are you physically inside of a grocery store? Are you able to cook a meal, right?
Yeah.
Parenting of the future is very asynchronous. 90% of kids have dual working parents. So I'm on the road for fundraising. It's emotionally flat out awful, not gonna lie. Being away from my kids for 7 days when they're young and they're growing almost every single day, and my 2-year-old is becoming more conversational every single day. I left and I came back, I felt like 10 years had gone by. It's awful. Most parents are going to work every single day. And so I think that the larger thing is, I want to actually center the conversation on, like, sure, if you're a working dad or a working parent, you're on the road, how can you still be an active participant? But I think the larger thing, which is the most important thing when we think about the use case of Maple, is that you should be ongoing in an asynchronous way caring for your children, so that where you are at has zero bearing on your ability to contribute to the mental load, whether that's planning a camping trip or planning swim practice or planning a dentist appointment. You don't need to be physically in your house or dependent on your wife for those things to get done. You should be able to participate in raising your children and do that from everywhere. And Maple is a unique tool that really allows for that to kind of happen and to exist. Things that we are working on in the future, and it's still some time away, but we look at Maple as a full stack super application that you would be able to make purchases inside of. From top to bottom, from planning to executing, everything should be able to take place in Maple, whether that's for a camping trip, a birthday party, or Christmas shopping, or grocery shopping, or planning the dentist appointment. You don't really have to leave the app, because the app is the digital hub of your home, because that is what asynchronous work looks like. So I think that so much about what you're doing, which I think is so important, is bringing to light this conversation that there's many forms of parenting, and just the previous way that we have done everything across many aspects of our life is no longer the grade A standard anymore. And so we have to be willing to lean into these new rules and these new responsibilities and these new opportunities as parents and working individuals.
Michael Perry, founder of Maple, thank you for being my guest today on the Company of Dads podcast. Last question for you. Look at the phone, look at the app. What's the top thing you have to do once we get off this podcast?
In Maple or in life?
In Maple. Oh, isn't Maple life? It's kind of
okay.
like,
I actually
Ted Lasso. Maple is life. Life is Maple. Come on.
I actually have two top things, and I can share both of them.
Yeah.
One is time sensitive. I need to buy Halloween costumes for my kids and myself.
Mm-hmm.
That is on my list of things today to do. And that won't be after this call, but it'll be during lunch. And the second thing, which I'm sure every parent can relate with, that my wife has actually put in Maple that I took off of her plate, because Maple is designed to do things like that, to proactively support your partner, is to finish my school's kindergarten application that is due by the end of this month.
Oh, yeah.
So I am working on a school application. Those are the top two things for me, Maple. Buy Halloween costumes, finish my son's school application.
And just make sure on that application you put down that you discipline your child in 3 different foreign languages. That's the way to ease the path into
You know what? That's it. That's what's missing. I'm going to be sure to put that on there.
Michael Perry, thank you again for joining me on the Company of Dads podcast. Thoroughly enjoyed it.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Company of Dads podcast. I really appreciate you tuning in week after week. Just want to use this moment here to thank the people who make it possible. Number one, of course, Helder Mira, who is our podcast editor. We also have Skip Cherryholmes, who many of you know from the Lead Dad Diaries. He's taken over our social media. Terry Brennan is helping us with our audience development, and Emily Servin is there each and every day helping with the web development. I can't do any of this without an amazing board of advisors. So I just want to say thank you to all of you who help, and I want to say thank you to everyone who listens, and hopefully you'll tune in again next week. Thanks so much.